Hello. Hi, welcome to a Silent Tale podcast hosted by I Can Always. Just give me 2 seconds. Let me grab the host for you. If you just want to grab a cup of tea or coffee, whatever you like, and we'll be right with you.
The host will be with you shortly. Your call is important to us. Host will be with you shortly. Your call is important to us.
Hey, welcome. I am super excited to be here with you. And I'm not gonna lie, it has been about 2 weeks where there has been no podcast. Why? Because your girl has been experiencing some burnout. And I look at myself in the mirror and I say, self, you know better. Why are you not doing better? And clearly, I just have been missing the mark lately. And listen, the most important part is she is back. She is ready to go. She is ready to move. I actually recently recorded a podcast with a friend of mine, Clay, who has his own platform podcast called Crowned Crane. And in that podcast, that's going to follow on from this one, just because I still wanted to cover the passion and purpose part of the podcast. Now, I hope, again, as I try to say every week, sometimes I forget, I hope you have your hot drink ready, your tea, your coffee. Today, I actually have like a lemon and ginger herb type of tea. I have been drinking that especially in the morning, and I'm kind of recording, well, actually it's mid-afternoon now. Yeah, I like to have that. It's just really cleansing, and just want to release any toxins that are not supposed to be there. Well, at least that's what I think the tea does anyway. But let's dive right in, because I want to get into this one, and I want to keep it short, sweet, because with this podcast specifically, I want to share my story on how I found my passion and my purpose. And I am hoping that it will somewhat encourage somebody out there. And again, if you hear any background noises, it is because it's a working from home situation. Okay, so let's get started. Let's dive right in. I feel like there is so many things out there that talk about finding your passion, finding your purpose, but I almost feel like it's not one shoe fits all. There's of course certain elements of maybe some things that might cross over from one person to the next, but I feel like every person's journey is unique and it never really happens in the same sequence. And so I'm just sharing mine to hopefully encourage someone out there, because I feel like there is no real sequence, but there's common things that I found for myself anyway. So I remember when I was younger, I wanted to be a nurse, because that was like my mom. I said, I was like, oh, I want to be a nurse because I want to be just like my mom. And at the time, I wasn't living with my mom. So because there was that distance, it was almost an element of just wanting to be a little bit closer to her. And so I just wanted to be like her from that perspective. But then I remember also getting into a place where I went into the town center. This is in Zimbabwe, in Harare. I went into the town center with my auntie, and I remember we went into the shoe store, and I remember it so vividly. Like I got some shoes from there. I used to love those shoes. They looked a bit boxy, but for some reason I absolutely loved them. When I think about them, they were a little bit butters, but anyway. And so I remember seeing so many people like coming into the store and like making a purchase. And so I remember looking at my auntie, I was like, I want to own a store when I'm older, because people are just coming. Imagine how much money these people are getting just from, all these people buying stuff. And it was a full store. It was quite like, when you get into a store, it's really, really busy and you're trying to kind of do little angles to go past. And I was like, whoa, I want to do that. So my passion for business, I believe, started from that point onwards. And so from then onwards, I always used to have these ideas for certain things. I cannot tell you how many business plans I have created because I thought this would be a good idea to do. Or I've had conversations with friends where I've just kind of said, actually, don't you think it would be great to do this? And so I've always had a very creative mind and also an entrepreneurial mind, because it was never just limited at thinking about the idea. I also would go into criticizing my thoughts criticizing my thoughts and thinking, but how would you make this work because of this barrier and this barrier? And I would always find a solution to every single answer. But what was missing from that train of thought, was passion and purpose. Because although I knew the field I wanted to play in, the passion and the purpose was missing. I remember then, fast forward, I'm in uni, I'm studying a fashion degree, and at the time I was really good at fashion. I had been traveling, most of the time going into London, because I went to Northampton Uni. I would go into London and I would do all these fashion shows, London Fashion Week, I did a Ted Baker Fashion Week, and all of these things, being involved, but I don't know, although it would excite me, I didn't see the future in it, right? Like, it's like, for some reason, I felt a little bit out of space. I felt a little disconnected. I just didn't gel with it as well as I wanted. And then I remember going to Paris for an internship for Emilia Wickstead, and that experience alone, I felt, was like, oh my days, here I am, city girl, I'm about to go to Paris to do an internship. I was really loving life. I was really loving myself at that time. But just prior to that, an idea had come to me to motivate others to do better. Like, I think for me, it really started by seeing people that were my age, maybe more my male counterparts, at 24 years old, and they're driving an Audi, they're driving a BMW, some legit means than others, but still it was the ones that were having the legit means. I remember having a friend of mine, I think he was about 24, 25, he was buying an apartment, he was driving an Audi, and I was thinking to myself, but how come I'm not really exposed to as many females who are doing this? And so the thought process for me started by recognizing something that I felt was missing and I didn't quite understand. And at first, I just wanted to know the answer. And so I started to do these I Can Always videos on my YouTube channel, because I was just doing YouTube just like anybody else. But then I started to do these I Can Always videos, and they really picked up. And I noticed that actually a lot of people were sharing them. A lot of people were connecting with me and saying, wow, I really loved what you talked about there, because I can relate in so many ways. I then started to share more of my story and my struggles, and people would connect with me deeper. And from that place, I remember going to Zimbabwe for my granddad's memorial, and I saw my cousins and I saw them in a different light, because at this point I'm thinking to myself, wow, I have certain luxuries that they don't have. And what am I actually doing with the luxuries I have? How can I actually pave a path for them, so that they can come and have a foundation set for them already? Because if I'm saying I'm the oldest out of every single one of them, then I should be doing something with the position that I'm in. I felt as if I had a duty to them. I felt I had a duty also to my future children. What kind of world do I want them to come into? What kind of person do I want to? And I really think it started from me first. I had to look at self and look at self in the mirror and say, self, are you living the way that you should be living? Are you living as I've heard before, are you living full out? Are you living as the best version of yourself? And I remember doing an internship for a design in London, and the girl I was doing it with, we started talking, and she said something along the lines of she wanted to start a sneaker store, but she just felt like, what if it failed? And I went deeper with her, and I realized, wow, there is a big barriers, big self-limiting belief there. And I didn't know it was called a self-limiting belief at the time, but I just knew there was a barrier. And I understood that a lot of people are not getting to the stage they want to get to. It's not for a lack of ideas, but it's simply because they don't believe in themselves. And I knew that the way for me to create a path for my cousins, when I started speaking to them, I noticed that they also had the same self-limiting beliefs. And theirs were valid by their environment. And so I thought to myself, if someone exposed to as much opportunities as we have can have a self-limiting belief, what much more else for somebody who lacks those resources? And so I really had to put myself in a position to see where the problem was. And from that place, my passion was birthed. Because I realized that there is not really as many people saying, let me tap into the core of you. I remember my friends used to laugh at me a lot. They'll say, oh, when she comes around, she's asking people about their childhood, whether their childhood was good or not. And it used to be funny at the time, but actually it is now the center of my business. And sometimes we have to look at the certain elements that it's part of us. I feel like passion is really just a part of us. Passion is your DNA. It's the very thing that you like. I don't know how to explain it. I feel my passion. I sometimes will go on Reddit and read certain stories of people who are sharing their stories, and I cry. I get so emotional because I get so connected. And whenever I hear someone saying, I'm really struggling with this, emotionally, I want to help, because that's my place where I'm like, want to leap and go over and say, hey, how can I help you? How can I support you? And I found that passion is not really about money. The money follows, but passion is about, how can I help you? How can I support you? And so that's the space that I got into, where I had to look at myself and say, okay, how are you going to create change in the environment that you live in? That's why the business tagline is, together we can create change, because we need to be supporting one another in order to change the way that we view ourselves, the way that we view our communities, the way that we view our futures. And so my passion became the very thing that was hurting me in other people, and even in myself. Because I had to go through a journey of healing. I had to go through a journey of self-discovery. And even in that self-discovery, I had to realize that there was more I could do to become a better version of myself. But when I was going on the journey, I started to notice certain things, that actually the resources were very limited. And so from that place, I can always, this passion, and passion mainly came from observing my own journey, speaking to the people around me, and realizing, wow, there is no real support. Especially for the Black community, there is not as much support when it comes to mental health, or exploring and going deeper with your emotions. Because a lot of the times, yes, some things can manifest to depression and anxiety, but sometimes it's just simple heartbreak. Sometimes it's just simple disappointment and failure that limits us from going the extra mile as we would like to. So my passion was birthed from my pain, my area of pain. And when I go now into purpose, my purpose was really now came from my relationship with God. Because if I'm a true believer of Christ, if I'm a true believer of God, that means I don't create my own purpose, because I was created for a purpose. And I just wanted to pause right there, because I really wanted you to let that sink in. I cannot create my own purpose if I was created for a purpose. So now it's no longer about me creating something afresh, but actually tapping into what already exists. And so I discovered that my purpose was to speak. My purpose was to encourage. My purpose was to speak life into people, because there isn't much of that anymore. I think it's very, very limited to find ourselves in a place where there is no support to speak life into each other, to speak life into one another. My purpose is to serve other people, is to serve you in your journey to become the best version of yourself, because I never had that. And because I feel I'm quite a sensitive person, it can be a bad thing and a good thing, and I've been learning the balance, to find the balance. But I can look into someone's eyes, and they might not show me the emotion, but I can feel their emotion. It's a gift, because not a lot of people know how to empathize or sympathize. And I am able to do so. And not only that, I am able to be open and transparent enough to say, hey, listen, this is also my story. These are some of the things that helped me. Maybe you want to try this. Maybe you just want me to listen to you because you know that I can feel what you're feeling. The whole idea of what I do, the coaching, the emotional coaching specifically, is to bring out something that the person already knows anyway. I don't think I've seen any of my clients that are completely clueless. They know themselves, they know their pressure points, they know exactly, but they just need a little bit of guidance. And more importantly, they just need somebody to listen to. That's my purpose. To serve other people on their journey so that they can become the best version of themselves enough to create the change that's needed in this world. Because there is a foundation of being better. There is a foundation of mindset that builds things like Apple, that builds things like Microsoft, that builds your Nike, your Coca-Cola. These brands came because the person that created it didn't believe in limitations. And so what would happen in our world if we didn't believe in limitations, but we said, no, limitations are not something that exists in the realm of my being? What would you do if limitations didn't exist in your realm of being? And I want to almost kind of end it there and leave it there, because there is so much that we could go into when it comes to this. But I think it's as simple as self-discovery. You have to discover yourself. You have to discover your pain points, and you have to discover where you're willing to serve. Because passion means, what are you willing to suffer for? Passion means, what are you willing to do even if you were never getting paid for it? But the thing is, money always comes. People always pay. People are always willing to give back as long as you're adding value to them. So the priority should never be, I want to become a millionaire. My passion is to become I don't know, like a lot of people are driven by money. But how about we shift and we say, I want to be driven by people. I want to be driven by creating change. I want to be driven by serving. And so finding self and discovering self is going to be the space and the area that's going to help you figure out what are your pain and pressure points and how can you help others through theirs. So thank you guys. I can also hear my mom in the background downstairs. I think she's on the phone. And so if you can hear her on the mic, say, hey, Mama Roo. But yeah, I really hope that you guys have enjoyed this episode. And if you have, please share it with a friend that you feel is going to benefit from it. I don't really like sharing for just sharing's sake, but I really want you to share if you believe it's going to add value to somebody else's life. I am looking forward to next week, where we're going to have a podcast with one of my friends, and the title of that podcast is Giving Permission for God to Heal You. giving permission to God. And so I'm really, really excited for that podcast. It was an amazing chat that me and Clay had. And then from that point onwards, I'm going to be having a few more guests on a few more topics. And I'm really, really looking forward to just sharing those with you, because I love talking to people. I love hearing their experiences and also hearing their nuggets that they have to share. And so stay tuned, and I will see you next week.